House Republicans are pressing for answers on what they see as a Benghazi cover-up.
Republicans say the Obama administration has blocked them from interviewing eyewitnesses, and they're upset that investigators never even questioned Hillary Clinton. Paul Strand has that story from Washington.
Former UN Ambassador Thomas Pickering and former Joint Chiefs Chairman Mike Mullen defended their Benghazi review before skeptical GOP lawmakers.
This was not, quote, a gotcha investigative panel. The responsibilities were to provide recommendations to see that we do our best never to let this happen again.
Obviously, this was not a gotcha panel because nobody was gotcha'd.
And Mullen was quick to insist American forces could not have rushed to the rescue in time to save the 4 Americans killed during the 9/11/2012 attack.
The military did everything they possibly could that night. They just couldn't get there in time.
But Republicans like Utah's Jason Chavez and Florida's John Mica were having none of it.
It is embarrassment to the United States of America that we could not get those assets there in time to help those people. We didn't even try. We didn't ask for permission. We didn't ask for flight clearances. We didn't even stand up the assets that we had in Europe. Didn't even try.
I just disagree with what you're saying, Mr. Chairman.
There is no reason that we couldn't launch from at least 3 locations I've visited and been told that we have in place people monitoring the situation, particular and specifically in Africa and North Africa.
As for House Democrats, they mostly expressed anger at how their GOP colleagues treated Pickering and Mullen at this hearing.
I am so outraged by the conduct of this committee today.
But Micah said he's fighting for all those Americans still frustrated over Benghazi.
Nobody's been fired. Nobody's been dismissed. No one's been arrested for the murders.
Later in the day, the panel heard from relatives of the men who died at Benghazi. Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Well, another showdown is brewing on Capitol Hill, this time over Obamacare. John Jessup has that story from Washington. John?
That's right, Gordon. A fiscal fight today over the nation's budget and the president's health care law. House Republicans voting on a plan that would fund the government for 3 more months. Their bill also blocks funding for Obamacare. Senate Democrats vow to reject the measure, and Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid called conservative Republicans anarchists. Still, Republican Senator Ted Cruz says he will take any steps necessary to block Obamacare, even if that means a filibuster. Meanwhile, another big fight is brewing over America's debt limit.
While the president is happy to negotiate with Vladimir Putin, he won't engage with the Congress on a plan that deals with the deficits that threaten our economy.
Speaker Boehner is planning a vote on the debt limit next week. President Obama and Iran's President Hassan Rouhani could meet next week. The 2 leaders are scheduled to address the UN General Assembly on Tuesday. They've already exchanged letters, and that's raising expectations for a thaw in the country's tense relations. Iran's nuclear program is at the heart of the ongoing impasse. Rouhani presents himself as a moderate, but Israel warns Iran is trying to deceive the world so it can keep developing nuclear weapons. A homeschooling family in Germany is back together again. The government took the 4 Wunderlich children from their parents because they were educated at home, which is illegal in Germany. After a hearing Tuesday, the kids were temporarily returned to their parents. The Wunderlichs have agreed to send their children to school, but Mike Donnelly of the Homeschool Legal Defense Association says this is not a victory for the Wunderlich family or homeschoolers.
This is a victory for a totalitarian regime that is bent on dictating to parents what they can and can't do with their children regarding their education. The Wunderlichs are very happy to have their children home today, but they should never have been taken. And we are very concerned about Germany's behavior in this area.
A hearing will be held in December to decide if the family will be given permanent custody of their children. And Gordon, it's great that the parents have been reunited with their kids, but to separate the kids not for abuse or neglect, but for homeschooling seems heavy-handed.
Oh, it was beyond belief. The stormtroopers at the door, your mother couldn't even kiss the children goodbye. Can you imagine the terror that was in the children's minds as they're being separated from their parents? Why? All because the parents said, we want to educate our children. We don't want the state-controlled school system to do that. We want to be in charge of the education, and that got them in trouble. So much so that the state said, we're going to permanently separate you from your children. We're going to take custody of them. And that's what this hearing coming up is all about. So this is one where you kind of boggles the mind when you look at the studies, particularly the studies out of the United States, where homeschooled children score better on standardized tests than public schools children. You kind of wonder what's going on in Germany.